the distinguished Senate President, Senator Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan, Your Excellency, distinguished Deputy Senate President, Senator Ovie Omoagege, distinguished principal officers of the Senate, distinguished senators, permit me, Senate President, to acknowledge and thank the senators from my state, Enugu State, namely Senator Ike Ekweremadu, Senator Chimaroke Nnamani, and Senator Chuka Utazi, as well as all the other distinguished senators here present and a number of you I know personally. So thank you all very much indeed for being here. It's a great honor for me, Mr. President, to appear here before this august body for this screening exercise. Your Excellency, I would start, if you permit, by extending my most sincere and profound gratitude to President Muhammadu Buhari for nominating me to serve a second term as his minister. Working for President Muhammadu Buhari under his direction for 3.5 years has been the high point of my professional career. If you will permit me, also, Mr. President, since the distinguished members have my CV before them, I will not speak to the CVs as such, but I would rather, if you permit, Mr. President, give a very brief overview of achievements within these last 3.5 years. Distinguished members, on the economic diplomacy side, we came up with a mechanism called the Nigerian Economic Diplomacy Initiative that I introduced. And this, Your Excellencies, is a one-stop internet portal where Nigerian businesses, any Nigerian business, can upload their businesses, and through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the comparative advantage the ministry has with 100 embassies around the world, we can promote and match that Nigerian business with other Nigerian businesses around the world. And it will be a direct match to avoid all the bottlenecks that businesses ordinarily suffer to access foreign markets. So this is a one-stop shop for all Nigerian business, and we've rolled this out. In addition, this mechanism also facilitates export promotion, because foreign businesses will also be able to go onto the site and have a sense of what Nigerian businesses are available and possible matches and partnerships. So, Your Excellency, this is a one-way stop for matching businesses, Nigerian businesses and foreign businesses. On the diaspora matching, we have also set up an internet portal, and this is a brain gain exercise, so that we can use all the Nigerians outside with skill set to upload on the database, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs through the embassies will seek to match them with potential employers and others here in Nigeria. We know that there are a lot of Nigerians in the diaspora who would like to come back, but do not know how to go about it. So this, again, is a one-stop shop marketplace, as it were, to incentivize and attract Nigerian brains outside to come back. Your Excellencies, on citizens diplomacy, this has been a priority for the government to protect and support Nigerians everywhere in the world. And to address this, because we know of the many challenges that Nigerians are facing around the world: xenophobia, their shops being shut, human trafficking, Nigerians in prisons in various countries, Nigerians who are looking for visas or passport renewal. We have seen on social media some of the reaction of Nigerians when they are confronted with obstacles in Nigerian embassies. And we have also now started to create a 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week help desk for all Nigerians anywhere in the world that they can contact. And the help desk will route the information to the necessary officials to speed up the action, and it will also ensure that Nigerians providing services in our embassies know that there is some oversight and that what they do is being closely watched. Your Excellency, on the issue of xenophobia, which is a very topical issue for us here in this country, and in particular with regards to South Africa, because of the situation there, I went personally to South Africa, met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs there, met with the Union, or Nigerian Union of South Africa, went to view some of the places that had been burnt at that time during the last xenophobic attacks, met with the High Commissioner there, and met with the Consul General. And what I saw immediately, Your Excellencies, was that there was a trust deficit between the South African police and Nigerians. And the Nigerian Union of South Africa also explained to me that this was a big challenge. So in the meeting that we had, the Minister of Foreign Affairs with the head of the police and their Minister of Interior, I proposed to them that we have an early warning mechanism that we should set up. And that this would essentially be a confidence building, to have a regular meeting where the head of the police of South Africa and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa and the major government office holders of South Africa will meet regularly with the Nigerian Union of South Africa, as well as the High Commission and the Controller General, Controller General. So the idea is to build confidence and to ensure that the Nigerians in South Africa can talk directly with the highest levels of government in South Africa, including the police, to build confidence and to start to address this issue. Your Excellency, the MOU that we wanted to sign has not yet been signed, but one thing I can say is that the South African government itself is not in any way complicit in some of the attacks suffered by Nigerians in South Africa, and are ready to cooperate to address this. And whoever Mr. President nominates as foreign minister, I think an additional mechanism that can be put in place is a hotline between the Minister of Nigeria Foreign Affairs and the Minister of South Africa to be able to react immediately to any crises, attacks, or whatever in South Africa. And this is absolutely important. Speed of action, and also for the South African police to know that there's oversight regarding how they engage with Nigerians in South Africa. On training, Your Excellency, we also have a training challenge, and we've been able to strengthen the Foreign Service Academy based in Lagos. But clearly that's an area that a lot more still needs to be done. And Your Excellency, possibly the most important thing is the need to bring the Foreign Service, the Foreign Ministry, the whole architecture of our foreign policy up to the 21st century, to be fit for purpose for the 21st century. And with that in mind, I started the process of a desk-to-desk gap analysis of the ministry, the agencies, and all our embassies around the world, and to look at the human resource needs and gaps, the work procedure, ICT, the whole gamut. And the purpose of this, which will be done with a consultancy firm and other specialists, is to now have a roadmap for the modernization of our foreign service, really, and our foreign policy architecture. Your Excellency, with regards to foreign relations, Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari has really shown himself to be one of the strongest brands that this country has on the foreign scene. And we see that he was appointed as the anti-corruption champion for the African Union and also as the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State of ECOWAS, notwithstanding the fact that he was a bit reluctant because of his workload to accept, but they insisted that he should occupy those very key positions at this particular moment in time. And I was able, with the ministry, to support him in those positions in building an African consensus on fighting corruption on the continent. And in his capacity as chair of ECOWAS, Authority of Heads of State, I also personally went as his envoy and under his direction and guidance to Guinea-Bissau, where we shepherded them through a very tricky situation, almost leading to a civil war, through legislative elections, forming a government, and now preparing for presidential elections. He sent me also as an envoy to Mali to broker peace between the competing presidential aspirants in that country, and now there is peace in Mali at that level. To Ghana to deliver his message of Mr. President to the President in respect of Nigerian traders whose shops were being closed in Ghana. And again, the result was positive. And we saw recently that those same traders, their representatives, came to thank personally Mr. President for his involvement. And also in Benin, I went as his special envoy to also help to resolve the crisis between the political parties before the legislative elections in that country. And also, Mr. President, we've done a lot with regards to the recovery and repatriation of stolen funds, and I have personally engaged very robustly with representatives of a number of countries to help to secure that repatriation. And finally, Mr. President, I was also able to sign an agreement with the United Nations to employ young Nigerians under a special program as junior professionals in the UN. And we're going to roll this out and have more of our young children working, starting off their careers with the United Nations. And also, I was able to engage with a number of countries to ensure that Nigeria presented a candidate unopposed as President of the United Nations General Assembly. And again, that was successful because we now have a Nigerian that will take over, our permanent representative in New York, as the President of the General Assembly. And finally, Mr. Chairman, absolutely the last, I don't know if it's really an achievement, but 3.5 years ago when I started this job, all my hair was black, but now it's all gray. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Before I call on my make their contributions by asking questions, I commission our ambassador of South Africa here in Nigeria, and I express our displeasure at the rate at which Nigerians are killed in South Africa, even by the police authorities. And I told him we are not going to take it anymore, and I want to stand on that. This citizen diplomacy we are talking about, I think we are weakening it. The way we are killed in South Africa, maltreated in Ghana, is replicated almost everywhere. And pretty soon, until we're able to arrest this situation, Nigerians will face this kind of situation in almost every country. So, what do you think you can do differently to bring this citizen diplomacy to a reality that Nigerians are respected If a Nigerian commits or alleged to have committed a crime in South Africa, the police should take the necessary steps. In fact, I have written to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Abuja, asking the ministry to give me all the names of Nigerians killed in South Africa. We are writing to the Parliament of South Africa. We are taking it to the next level, and I pray that you, who will be on the executive side, treat this matter as expeditiously and as seriously as possible. So what do you think you can do differently to ensure that Nigerians don't lose their lives? Even when they commit mistakes or crimes, alleged crimes, there are processes. Killing is not supposed to be the last resort. So what do you think you can do differently?
Thank you very much, distinguished members, for those very pertinent, very incisive questions. If you permit, Your Excellency, Mr. President, I will start with your question about citizens' diplomacy and what I can do if reappointed specifically to tackle the matter. Your Excellency, for me, what I believe is the issue is really one of communication and quick communication, and two, the direct oversight of law enforcement agencies in South Africa. This seems to be the real problem for Nigerians in South Africa. We must not forget, Your Excellencies, that the level of crime generally in South Africa is extremely high. And so one is dealing in an environment of very high crime rates. Specifically, Mr. President, what I would do is what I mentioned. I think that there has to be a hotline between myself, if I were appointed as Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa, that once we, as I said, we hope to now have in place this help desk for Nigerians. Once there is any sign of problems for any Nigerians, to get it immediately across to the highest level of government in South Africa to engage with our High Commission there to start addressing very, very quickly the issue. And secondly, the other thing I would do is, as I said, it is absolutely important that the higher echelon of the security agencies, the police in South Africa, engage directly with the Nigerian Union of South Africa. And this is a framework I tried to create with an early warning system. The reason why I did that was because the members of the Nigerian Union of South Africa told me that the problem they were having is that they themselves know the criminal elements among the Nigerian community, and that they would like a situation where they can go to the law enforcement agencies to alert them of those criminals so that action can be taken quickly. But because of the trust deficit between the Nigerians and the South African police, they say that very often, they're not able to work with the South African police. So I think that it's important to get the senior officers in the South African police directly engaged on this matter and to sign this MOU. And that's where I think we also need higher level engagement with them. And of course, the President of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, they've requested formally for a bilateral meeting. We have set up under the former president, President Zuma, with President Buhari, a binational meeting where they will be meeting regularly at the level of president to address bilateral issues. And so it's important that we organize very quickly the next bilateral meeting at the presidential level, so this matter can also be addressed, so that it really becomes an issue addressed with political will and by the highest levels of government of South Africa. Your Excellency, you also talked about the video that's been circulating regarding the treatment of a Nigerian in a mission in Canada. Two things regarding that, Your Excellency. I also saw the video, and the moment I saw it, I called the embassy, the High Commission in Canada. And I was informed that it quickly became apparent that this was a video that had been circulating for over 3 years, and that it was not current. And we have an excellent High Commissioner there presently, and such has been the very positive and efficient way they've been addressing and dealing with providing services for Nigerians that almost all the Nigerians now are writing to us praising the Nigerian High Commission in Canada. You also mentioned, Your Excellency, the issue of Nigerian staff in the embassy in Washington and payment of salaries and so forth. Your Excellency, the issue of payment of salaries has really been the bane, the real problem and challenge that we have with regards to our foreign service generally. I met on numerous occasions with the ministers of finance to try to, and the CBN governor and so forth, to ensure that the allocations to our embassies are paid on time. But it's almost become the rule and the practice that they come in so late and not always in full. We've had to come to this august body on 2 or 3 occasions to ask for special interventions because of the late payment and other things to our missions. And it's something that we are really dealing with, Your Excellency. Another thing is that the amount appropriated to our embassies usually just a fraction of what we have identified as the needs of these embassies, and then they're not paid on time. So it's really a major challenge that we are addressing. Mr. President gave the directive that we should have a multi-sectoral meeting, Governor of Central Bank, Minister of the Ministry of Finance, and all the others, to really address once and for all this whole issue. And one of the solutions could conceivably be that we just have to reduce even further our number of missions. The amounts that we pay for our foreign service does not compare with other countries. And we really have to, of course, we have other competing interests as a country, but it is a real challenge that we are still battling with, Your Excellency. The Deputy Senate President also, I think, raised the issue that it wasn't just a question of the South African government not being complicit, but how can we really ensure that this business of attacking and killing Nigerians does not continue. And I think I've tried to answer it with the first question. It's going to require really high-level government engagement, the bilateral meeting with the president, and also a hotline and getting the South African police to join up with our early warning system. So they are meeting regularly with Nigerians, because the Nigerians Union of South Africa wants to be part of helping the South African police to address the criminal elements that do exist, and nobody doubts that they do exist in South Africa. And I think building up this trust is absolutely key, and that's what I would certainly push towards. Your Excellency, Senator Musa asked a very pertinent question about non-appreciation of a lot that Nigeria does for so many countries. And this is something that we have noticed on a recurring basis. And how I would address it, and if I were now given the opportunity going forward, which I already raised in the past, is that every multilateral meeting we attend, AU meeting, ECOWAS meeting, and so forth, there should be a part of a documentation of all the assistance we're providing to African countries. And this should be distributed always for any of those meetings, so that it's not something that we and the beneficiaries know about, but that everybody can see. And I think this will, begin to make it more open and clearer, precisely the sacrifice that we are also making for other countries on our continent. On the issue of human trafficking, and again the financial problems faced by our embassies, and you mentioned, of course, in particular Mali. The human trafficking issue is also something that I believe that this help desk will start to solve, because I think at the moment very often there are too many silos. Working in silos, of course, we have NAPTIP, and then you have the embassies there and others working around the same issues, are not always cooperating and working together. And I believe that with a centralized help desk where information will be coming in, and the ministry will be in a position of making sure that the requirement for action is forwarded to the right people, we will begin to address those issues in a timely manner and also with a coherent approach. And of course, the financial problems that are faced in our embassies is again a major one, and a lot of it is just the appropriation is never commensurate to what we put forward as requests as a budget, and we have to now start looking at really downsizing almost all our around the world. I raised this issue in a Federal Executive Council meeting when the then Minister for Budget and National Planning was preparing this budget. And I drew attention to this, and because of the competing interests from other sectors, he was of the opinion then that we would have to seriously consider reducing the number of our embassies around the world.
Mr. President, 2 more minutes, please.
Sorry.
2 more minutes, please.
Okay. Then on the issue of other embassies, charging for what other embassies do to Nigerians regarding renewal of visas and so forth. Of course, very often this is a reciprocal issue. We have engaged with the United States government on that question, and a number of the other embassies and so forth. And the best way we can react, and maybe the only way we can react, is we'll have to have some reciprocal measures also addressed to them. So I'll just rush through. On the issue of what is our foreign policy today, Your Excellency, when we took over, the economy was in a very, very bad situation and a very bad place. So the economic diplomacy aspect was really the bedrock, the core of our foreign policy at the time. How we can leverage on our presence in 100 countries around the world to increase foreign direct investment in Nigeria and to open up the possibility of greater export promotion. And we engaged very robustly on that. Identified, for instance, in our agricultural sector, we raised it with a number of countries. The phytosanitary standards that they require for our agricultural products are essentially blocking market access for a very important sector for us. And this is something we engage with. So you mentioned the other foreign ministers. I think, of course, it depends. During the period, there were different priorities. And we felt that now the economic diplomacy is really something we have to push to make our country really viable and open to investment, to transform and uplift our people. And the Senator Kalu, also talked of the way Nigerian businesses are treated in other countries. I think that this is something we have to work. What I would suggest going forward is a regular meeting with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and relevant businesses, chambers of commerce of our countries, to identify what problems are in which countries and what measures we should be taking. I have had to intervene personally at the highest level in Benin, for instance, on one of our telecommunications companies that they would not issue a license. And we facilitated for them to meet with the president. I followed up with the minister and the minister that was responsible for issuing licenses, and really brought as much pressure as we could. So I think it's really a question of business community working together with the ministry. And the deputy leader asked a question about TAC. Technical Aid Corps, and whether it should continue. And I believe personally that it should. Nigeria is a big country. We've now seen the continental free trade area that has come in. There's greater integration, and we're pushing for greater integration with communications, road networks, and so that's the future. And the fact that we have TAC, we are building influence and forming important connections in these countries that will serve us very well, business level, social level, people-to-people level, in an important way. And we can see how, as you mentioned, the Peace Corps, that really helped the United States take over from the British, who had the monopoly of contacts with a lot of the developing countries, and how that now really put the United States in a situation where they were able to, I would say, almost move towards world dominance. And finally, Senator Jibril, the Nigerians in Libya, the International Organization for Migration is actually charged, notwithstanding the fact Mr. President did send a team that I led at the time to Libya, but the International Office for Organization for Migration is actually repatriating Nigerians on a very regular basis. And that's really something that they know how to do, and they are doing well. And you mentioned the fact that there's still some, and some of who died during this bombing. And when I went to Libya and we met with the highest level of government in Libya, one of the things they pointed out to us is that, to all intents and purposes, there are areas that the government in Libya has absolutely no control whatever. And there are some Nigerians who are there. And the IOM also informed us of that. And so we're working also with our embassies and other contacts that they might have to see how they can get access to them in that country. But also we're working with other agencies in Nigeria to try to raise a level of awareness about the dangers of this migration, and that's really what we have to do to address it at source. And so we have been meeting regularly, trying to see if we can do more in this country to really stop our youth. And we have, of course, other countries are doing the same. Niger Republic has the direct border with Libya, and we know that a number of European countries are setting up surveillance positions there to try to also stop a lot of these irregular migrants traversing the borders there. I'll stop there, Your Excellency. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, I have a long list of senators who want to. No doubt we have reached an anticlimax. With that kind of presentation, there is nothing to add. So is it the wish of this Senate that His Excellency Geoffrey Onyeama, please pardon me, I will not call the other names. Takes a bow and go. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow.